I'm pausing heavily just in case we're not streaming yet. All right, I think we are online. So we are, what, 11 or 12, depending upon what time zone you're in. If you're in the US and then, all over the world, it could be either day. We are 11 or 12 days into 2026. And so if you're like me, you frequently make a bunch of goals. You don't call them resolutions because you seem to always break resolutions. Goals sometimes you feel like you can stick with. One of the major problems that I have is that I make too many goals and they're very difficult to achieve. So they're not, your SMART goals if you're familiar with that term. And that got me to thinking about one of the things that a lot of us tend to do, especially when we're starting something new, is we'll dive headfirst into it, which is awesome. That gives us a lot of energy, a lot of motivation, and it gives us a lot of momentum. However, that can also mean that we tend to get a bit scattered and lose our focus. So let me explain what that means. Because that kind of sounds contradictory, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm mixing up a couple of things here in terms of the problem. But what I mean is when we talk about directory sites, and if you've been looking at creating a directory, you want some extra income, or you want to make it your full-time job, and build that up over time. There are a couple of things that a lot of us tend to do. So we tend to think that the more directories I have, the better. And that ignores a whole bunch of different things. So for one, there are three different ways primarily that directories make money. I made a video on this in the past. I definitely recommend you check it out. But real quick, just to sum up, one is essentially from traffic, and then they would have ads on that directory. And so you're basically then making a passive income from having ads, and then you have all the traffic that comes in. And it takes a while to build that up. You have to build up enough SEO kind of juice so that you're actually showing up in search results for LLMs, for AI, and for regular old Google search. And you have to get any kind of links. You have to, in other words, you just have to build traffic to the site. That takes forever. The second way that people often do it too still requires traffic, but it's actually in getting leads and selling those leads. And then the third way that we recommend is that you use your directory site to actually build an agency. And that's by far the fastest way to make money. It's also the least passive. But when people get excited about the idea, and for good reason, because we tend to show people a lot of the results that others have gotten and our team has gotten, they frequently, and I'm guilty of this, which is why I feel comfortable talking about it and criticizing it, they frequently want to build like 10 different directories. So for example, for a local directory, which is primarily what we focus on, but you can also do industry directories this way. I myself have no less than, I want to say, 10 domain names. Now, I've only shown you, I think in other videos, I've shown maybe two of them. But I tend to show you just one of them that's built with Smart Directory because I have one from before I knew about Smart Directory. But one of the problems with having, if I were to actually have built out those 10 directories, is I only have enough energy and focus to get them so far. And in reality, I have a big enough market with just one of those directories where if I'm trying to make that $1 million and follow in the footsteps of, I'll show you an example, Mind Marketing and what they've done to make over $1 million a year off of one directory alone, it just doesn't make any sense for me to scatter my focus. So I want to make sure that as excited as you might get about starting a directory this year, if you started it really focusing and growing it this year, I want to make sure that you're focusing on that one directory first, getting a few things right before you expand. And I'm not saying don't ever expand. I'm not saying don't have a local directory and an industry directory. But what I do want to get you to a certain point before you do that, because again, if you're like me, you tend to use that kind of expansion as procrastination almost. Because I could start, 10 different directory sites. And bear in mind, I mentioned I have 10 different domains for local directories. I also have at least 3, maybe 4 for industry directories. But if you are doing that kind of like scattershot approach, you're essentially procrastinating on whatever the thing is that takes that directory, your individual directory, to the next level. Because if you're only sending out the email sequences that we give you and you're not following up and doing like a follow-up phone call, which we find really, really accelerates your results, then you're kind of just trying to do a little like here and there, kind of the easy work and try to find the easiest customers you can, and not just going flat out going after the way you're going to make the most money. And so that also kind of hinders your growth. And essentially, you're learning the hard way then, because rather than diving in, following, really what we're offering in the training and what we're showcasing and what people who are also building directories in the community are saying works, you're doing again the easiest things. And I know I'm guilty of that, which is why I feel comfortable, saying maybe you're doing it too. So in any case, when you get started, when you start your first directory, I want you to focus on that one directory if you absolutely need to, because you've got a great idea. There are a bunch of different like little cities around you that you want to build a directory for in the future. By all means, buy the domain name. I'm completely on board with that, and that's partially why I did it. You can get them I get mine through Cloudflare. I'm sure there are other options that are equally as cheap, but it's like $10.46 a year. All right. So anyway, all of that is the like start of the explanation. And when you're thinking about directories, if you haven't yet figured out your first directory and you're really not sure what you want to do, we advocate for a local area. So what's a local directory that kind of spans all different industries and services in your local area. So this could be your city. It could even be a part of your city, especially if you're in a large city, and you might want to do some research and try to figure out if, and don't get too overwhelmed with the research, but try to figure out if the area that you're looking at is already pretty saturated with local directories, or it's really highly competitive. Because if you're New York City, for example, don't do a New York City directory. Do like a specific borough, or even smaller than that, a neighborhood. I'm not from New York City, so I don't know the terminology there, but you might do like Lower Manhattan or something like that, rather than just trying to span the whole city. So you can also do neighboring cities. If your city, let's say there are tons of people already in, I'm in Austin, Texas. Let's say that's oversaturated. Maybe I start looking at nearby smaller cities. You could do an industry directory, and I have a couple of videos on industry directories and how you can do that with Smart Directory AI. Of course, you don't have to use Smart Directory AI. This works for everything. And you can also do like a network you think of. That's a little bit more complex. That would be something like, I don't know, fractional CMOs or something like that. I really wouldn't start with that one. It's way too complex and it's not really a use case that you want to get into. But in any case, get excited, buy the domain after you do your research. And by all means, if you think of a bunch of others and the domains are open, you think you want to do them in the future, if you can invest $11 for a year just to have that option and preserve that domain, I would say go with it. But you really can just stick with one directory, make it successful, and that can cover everything that you need from your business and more. As long as you're in a good area, good industry, etc. But again, following our guidelines, you should be pretty solid there. Okay. And a lot of this is all like a prerequisite to saying there's almost 0% chance that you're going to tap out your entire market for that one directory and not be able to sustain yourself or your business to the level that you want. So I already kind of mentioned a lot of this stuff. I'm not going to kind of scroll through everything that I just said here. But again, I want you to make sure that when you're creating your directory, you get it to a point where you're making money with it first before you start another one. If you've already got a couple clients coming in from your first directory, I think it makes sense then. If you want to start a second one, go for it. But the model that that Minor Marketing used to build their agency to a $1.6 million a year agency is using this directory here, Hawaii Thrive. And so this is the one directory that they've used to really build everything to become Hawaii's, I think it was second fastest growing marketing agency in 2024, I believe. Don't quote me on that. One of the recent years. It could have been 2023, 2022, but it might have been mid-multiple years. But if you look through here, and this is why it's a really good example, you can see how many businesses are in here. You can see how it's broken up. You can see all sorts of different information to just get a feel for what they've got in here and how, and a lot of this is pretty similar to what you get out of the box. They've only added some additional details for a variety, or if other businesses have already claimed their listing, those businesses have added the details on these pages. But when you're uploading all of these businesses, you're just using a spreadsheet. So it's really, really straightforward. There's a spreadsheet template. You get essentially this site out of the box. The only difference is you won't have these specific businesses. You will have dummy businesses there that you'll just replace over time. And you'll be able to customize the colors and everything. So for example, my directory site built on Smart Directory AI as well. You can see similarities in how everything's set up in the menu. You can also see what I customized. I customized some of the colors. Of course, I added my own logo and everything. Added my own favicon up here. These are different categories. Actually, I think these are the categories that came with it, but I added some additional ones like American food, burgers, barbecue, Indian restaurants. So there are things that you can customize really quickly right out of the way without having to like build this from scratch. And once you do the little bit of customization you need, feel free to do more throughout, but it'll take you like 20 minutes just to get the directory set up, take you maybe an hour or two to, while going through the tutorials that come free with it, add in the business listings and tweak your prospecting emails. So what I mean is the way that we use these directory sites to get to that agency, revenue level is you'll actually come in here, all the business accounts in here. You'll get this by coming into contacts, for example, and don't worry, you get training on this. I'm just giving you a real quick example. You would upload a bulk list of the businesses. They would all become contacts in here. And then you tweak your automated workflows, which are basically sequences of emails. So your outreach workflows, and let me click into this, and I'm going to show you some of these emails. So for this email warm-up, for example, I tweaked this email just a little bit. I think I can just open it here. We'll go into edit design so you can see it. So all of this stuff is just pulled in automatically from those contacts that you added. So you don't have to worry about this. This is basically the email template you get. The difference is I customized it by adding my directory name. And then I added pretty much this line here, roughly that line here, where I just highlight not only Round Rock, the area it is, but I also mentioned some other just kind of like local landmarks. Highway I-35, I mentioned tech hubs and all that stuff. And then I think the only other thing is the sign off, or yeah, wherever I mentioned Round Rock directory, the sign off, and then this little bit here. So you customize that for a couple of emails, that sort of thing, but all of the real text that you need is already there. And then once you're ready, you can start adding those, you can add groups of those businesses to those prospecting workflows. So it reaches out and it lets businesses know that they have a listing in the directory. And as you can see from this first email that they get, and I should have just given you a second to make sure you read through that, it's actually not saying, hey, give me your business. It's doing the exact opposite. And that's what I love about this model, because I hate asking people for money. And you probably do too. It's just not, for whatever reason, unless you are in sales and you've been kind of like in that environment or you love negotiating, a lot of us just aren't wired for that. It's some kind, I don't know if it's like a conflict aversion or whatever. We hate asking people for money. This allows you to introduce yourself and introduce your business in the exact opposite way. You're telling them, I made this for you. So remember, when you upload these businesses, so Salt Lick is a good example here. I uploaded this in a spreadsheet. I didn't add an image. I didn't add a description. This is what they get out of the box when it's just uploaded. They have their own page. They have the address in here. They have the contact information. All of that, as soon as I upload that spreadsheet, and I have to add one more thing, just a tag to all the businesses, which takes like 2 seconds, they get a listing. So then my email that tells them they have a listing allows them to actually see it. And so for this business owner, they can see the listing, they can see if it's correct, or they can just see it here and tell me yes or no, it's correct. And there are 4 other emails that go out in this sequence. So if they don't respond to this one, there are a couple others that they very frequently respond to one of them. But this is me automatically providing them some value. And then I have this little blurb down here. So it's not, it's not like I'm trying to hide that there's an agency behind this. It's not the highlight, but you can see right here, it's very clear. It's up front. I'm not sneaking around. So it's all above board. And then by me saying, hey, I've made this directory, I've given you a listing. Is this correct? I want to make sure that when people come to their directory, they can find you. I'm opening the door to communication, to seeing what they need and seeing if there's a way that I can help them in the future. And so we also have other sequences of emails. I won't dive into everything just because I don't want you to get too bored here, but you do get all of this out of the box. Like I said, the tweaks that I made in that first email, similar to the other tweaks that you're going to make. I'm just going to open up this one as an example. Actually, I think you make even fewer tweaks in other emails because yeah, all of this, I didn't have to change anything here. This link is automatically going to link to their business, their specific listing. And then I just have this blurb down here from the previous email. That's the only thing that I changed. So you have all of those, and then you have those additional sequences because what you're probably thinking is, okay, cool, you're letting them know about the free listing. How do you get business from that? Well, they have the opportunity to upgrade, and so then they have a premium kind of like upgrade series of emails. And then you also have marketing services and your SaaS services for if you're creating AI agents, which again, if you join the AI Smart Launch Lab, that's all free training where you can dive in and learn about how to do that. So we try to give you everything out of the box. So if you focus on that one directory, you can go through these steps and actually make your first dollar, make your first $500 per month, make your first $1,000 per month with your first directory. And then later on, if you do want to expand after you've kind of like figured things out, you're going to do it the best way. You're going to already be comfortable, and you're not going to be kind of stuck in that space where every week you make a new directory, but you never actually pursue the leads that you put in there. So that's really the key with what I want to emphasize here is you want to make sure that you're focused on carrying that first directory through to the point of profitability, and you don't want to leave it in the middle. So part of what we do too, because Go High Level is the foundation of all this, your like CRM and your ability to sell things, as well as, and by that I mean different services like Google Profile Optimization, AI agents, even paid ads and social media posting. It's all kind of built in there. So the way that Mina Marketing built their agency and has kind of like really built up a lot of this is through that Go High Level infrastructure, and that's why Smart Directory AI is built on top of it. So when I look in here, and for example, if I looked at my AI agents, and let me actually show you something really quickly. If I go to roofing, I'm going to show you one of the AI agents. Oh, you know what? I think I need to go to remodeling and renovations. There we go. Vertical solutions. So I actually put an AI agent as a demo just for this company on their page. And I built that in Go High Level. So the AI agent is in Go High Level, this little chat widget here. I can click in. If you go to roundrockbusinesses.com and then look for vertical solutions, roofing and construction, you can actually mess around with this. Click call us here. It's a voice agent. So if it's late where you are, maybe don't do this right now. Maybe wait until the morning, or at least make sure whoever's asleep near you isn't going to hear this just because you're going to be talking to an AI agent chatbot. But you actually can create this in Go High Level as well. So all of this is basically self-contained in Go High Level in some fashion. So it makes it really easy. So you really only need those two tools to get your $1 million agency. You do need to, of course, work. This is not like an overnight thing, but we set you up for success by giving you all of these templates that are tried and true and these sequences, and you're part of the community that's actually been doing this, and you have people who have used different methods, who have called to follow up 3 days after the business gets an email, or a week after they get an email, and we have those kind of scripts available. And that's really how Mina Marketing built their business, is through Go High Level and a directory site, the two primary tools. All right, so what you need to do and what I want you to take from this, if you are the type of person like me to start the new year and have 1,000 goals, of some of which I'm already guilty of kind of like breaking for my daily goals, go ahead and take a second and pause and think about the way that you want to approach this. If your goal is to start as many directory sites as possible, then you can go ahead and start as many directory sites as possible. But if your goal is to achieve something specific with the directory model, and that's probably going to be a certain level of income, maybe you want to cover your car payment, maybe you want to cover your mortgage. Start with that one directory and really, really go in on it. And this doesn't mean you have to spend 40 hours a week on it, but it does mean that I want you to focus on that one directory and making that profitable. And ideally, really growing that market before you dive into another one. Because that's going to teach you so much more along the way, and it's actually just going to be a lot better for you. So that's actually one of the things that I myself need to work on, because the directory part of my business is just a subset of it. So I also need to invest specifically in that. So I can very much relate if you're the type of person who gets kind of scattered like that, especially in the new year. Um, but you can check out Hawaii Thrive if you want to see more of, you just kind of play around, click around. If you're not familiar with Smart Directory AI, everything that they've got here, you get out of the box all those capabilities. There's nothing on here that you would not be able to do. So if you look at more, you can see like news, events, jobs, pricing, about. You can charge for premium listings. I recommend annually versus monthly, but you could charge monthly as well. All that stuff is stuff that you get, and the abilities that you have, you'll also have on Smart Directory, or you'll have through Smart Directory AI. Everything on Hawaii Thrive. You can also look at my site, which is not as filled out, roundrockbusinesses.com. Same thing. If you want to play with the chat widget, you can just kind of do that here. Like I said, this is specific to this. This is just a demo one. So I put in just a little bit of information on it, but feel free to play around a little bit. But those are really critical for just kind of like getting an understanding there. All right, so I think I've explained pretty much everything that I listed here. I kind of went through most of this spreadsheet without, or this outline without actually following along, because I wrote it not too long before this. But if you have any questions in chat, let me know. I'm happy to answer them. I do have a bunch of videos, obviously on the YouTube channel, and then you get free training with Smart Directory AI. I recommend checking out the Smart AI Launch Lab. And the link is in the description for both that and Smart Directory AI. You can get a free trial with Smart Directory AI as well. What I would do is I would go into the Launch Lab, get a feel for the type of thing that you're going to be selling, and then you can also get a free trial of Smart Directory AI, also get a free trial of Go High Level if you don't have it yet. So you don't have to worry about having to pay anything up front to get this information and test it out. That said, once you decide to commit, I still recommend you focus on one at a time. If you want to check out more information on just how to like really get started and get into that, making your first dollar online, getting your first like 3 clients, and that's kind of the number that I want you to shoot for, because I feel like your first client, more often than not, you're like, oh crap, I have a client. How do I do this? Your second client, you kind of like starting to get familiar. Third client is where you really get into it, and then you've hit your stride. But I don't see any questions for me. So I will give it another minute or two. If you do have any questions, put them in chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I'll give you 30 more seconds. All right. I think I'm going to call it good. Thanks for hopping on. Appreciate it. I know it's late for some of you, maybe not for others. Have a good one.